Hi everyone, welcome back to the Property Finance Podcast, and today I want to talk about how to pitch a joint venture. So a lot of people ask me, well, how do I go about pitching a joint venture to a landowner, or how do I go about pitching a joint venture to an investor? And it's all about putting together a win-win. So the biggest thing that I find with everyone who I speak to is they get wrapped up in creating their own win, but they don't think about creating a win for the vendor or the investor. So if we take a landowner to begin with, what you're doing is you're trying to create a win-win in the sense of you've got to try and persuade the landowner that your offer is better than them getting all of the money up front. So I want to talk about a deal that we did sort of about 18 months ago, and I speak about it a lot within my talks and everything else. But we had a client who came to us and they said, we found a plot of land, it's up for 2.3 million. What can we do? So a cash buyer on a plot like that, for example, you're looking at them probably paying 2.1 million for that. We looked at it and we said, well, actually, based on doing deferred payments, so going into kind of a hybrid joint venture, is actually by doing those deferred payments, you can actually afford to pay 2.45 million. So there's your win-win. So instantly you're saying to the vendor, well, look, you're going to defer £1 million. You can have 1.3 million day one. You defer £1 million and then get an extra 150 on top of that for leaving that million in. So rather than getting 2.1 million now, you can, in 18 months, have 2.45 million. And it's about creating a thing of, you can have a second charge, securitize the money, make sure that it's safe. You don't need all of that money up front. We know that you're going to be all right with the 1.3 million. And it's understanding those circumstances and being able to say, based on those circumstances, here's a win for us, here's a win for you, and here's the start of a relationship. And creating that win-win, I think for a lot of vendors, is something that they don't see. A lot of the time, you put a property up for sale, someone makes you an offer, you say yes or no. But someone coming to you with a creative idea of, well, actually, here's how you can make that a little bit more, they don't see that a huge amount. And I think that's the best way of pitching that kind of deferred payment route. If you're going in for a full-blown JV, so this is where you're going to a landowner and you're saying to them, look, you put the land into an SPV, obviously subject to all of the taxes and everything else. You put the land into the SPV, we'll then come into the SPV as well. We'll raise the finance, we'll do the build, everything else. And then once we're done, we'll sell it all, split the profits 50-50, 70-30, whatever the percentages that you've set. How you're going to portray that is slightly different, because with that scenario, you're not necessarily spending or giving them any money day one. You're saying to them, actually, the win-win is at the back end as opposed to the front end. Now, the win-win there has got to be more substantial because, so take the deferred payment route, for example, you're offering them, in this scenario, we said 1.3 million day one. Well, they're getting pretty much all of their money probably back out day one, because most people would have spent maybe £1 million on that plot of land, gone and got planning, and that's where the uplifts come. But what will happen is, because they've had that sort of 1.3 million up front, they don't need as much at the back end because they've kind of already ticked that box. Whereas a full-blown joint venture with the landowner, you're in a situation where they haven't actually had any money out day one. The risk is still there for them in terms of sort of moving forward. So they've got to have something big at the back end to be working towards. In terms of pitching that, it's a lot more difficult because you're going to have to talk about securitizing their money. You're going to have to talk about exit plans. You're going to have to talk about, well, what happens if the project doesn't go as planned? Because their biggest concern in that scenario is, well, if that project doesn't go as planned, I lose all my money. Because if I've put the land into the SPV, I've lost all my security, I've lost all my money. I've just basically just given away that plot of land if the development then fails. So it's about working out how to securitize that. And you may need to put more security forward. So you may need to put personal guarantees. You might need to offer up maybe a charge on another property. There's got to be something to kind of ease that. And again, it's coming back to that win-win of creating your win, which is you not having to put any money in day one, but creating a win from their perspective of, actually, okay, I can put the land in, but I'm going to make more money at the back end. When you're pitching kind of JVs to an investor, for example, it's a slightly different pitch, because obviously in these ones that we've mentioned before, it's about creating that win-win for the long term and creating something where everyone feels safe, secure, everything else. When you're JVing with an investor, you're still working on the basis of trying to make sure that their investment is safe and secure, but they're probably going to be more interested in, to a certain degree at the start, of actually how much money are they going to make back over the course of this joint venture, because they want to understand, okay, well, my security is XYZ, but how much am I going to make? How long does this journey last for? How do I get out the back end of this? So creating the win-win there is about being able to offer them the most return on their investment that you can afford, being able to give them the most security that you can give them, and being able to create a journey whereby they feel like, okay, well, if this fails, I've got this that I can reinvest it in, or I've got this way of getting my money back out. And that's all they're bothered about is being able to get back out of a deal as well. So it's kind of your exit plan, if you like. And that's what they're going to be most interested in. So that's kind of how I would pitch a JV in those three different scenarios. And fingers crossed you found that quite helpful in terms of just a quick whistle-stop tour of how to pitch a JV. I mean, I probably could have made this a little reel or something, but add a little bit more detail. It just makes it a short, snappy podcast. But hopefully you found that helpful. If you have, do let me know. I'm more than happy to kind of help with structuring JV deals and things like that. So if you've got something you're looking at and you want to understand whether or not it's going to work, by all means, fire it across. More than happy to have a look at it and kind of put my own suggestions and my own spin onto things. But otherwise, thank you very much for listening. I'll catch you on the next one.